What's up everybody? Welcome to today's video. I'm very excited for this one. It's going to be a little different than my normal videos. It's going to be a big collaboration video with a bunch of other YouTubers because today we are celebrating Pi Day. For those of you that don't know, Pi Day is celebrated on March 14th or 3/14. Pi is a mathematical ratio of the diameter of a circle to its circumference. It is 3.14159. Though, we also know that pi has a second meaning, which is possibly the most delicious baked good there ever was. So for this video, what I've done is issued a good old-fashioned pie eating contest to all the other eating YouTube celebrities out there that you know and love. So the rules are simple. Everybody gets one pie, 9 inches, standard size, double crust with a fruit filling. We don't want any of that pudding in a pie crust stuff here. This is a real old-fashioned pie. The second part of the challenge is that everybody has to show how they came across this pie. Not only is this an eating contest, but it's a baking contest. Now I realize some people don't necessarily have the baking skills, so it's perfectly fine for someone to go to a bakery and pick up a pie and compete with that. But I encouraged everybody to prepare the pie to the best of their ability. So some people might be picking up a frozen pie, like a Marie Callender's from the store, and heating it up. Some people can purchase a pre-made pie crust with some pre-made pie filling and put that together and bake that, and that's perfectly fine. But since baking and eating are both my thing, what I'm going to do, and what I encouraged everybody else to do, is prepare their pie completely from scratch. So, first thing we got to do is get our apron on and get cooking. And since this is YouTube, we have to do one of those magical transitions where I snap my fingers and instantly I'm wearing different clothing. Now, this is the first time I've ever tried this level of magical editing, so you're going to have to bear with me. Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, clearly this isn't that type of video. We're not trying out for ESPN here, so let me try that again. 1, 2. Okay, that's better. Okay, now, the first part for any pie making is obviously the crust. So what we've got out here is measured all the ingredients we're going to need. We've got 2.5 cups of sifted flour in our big bowl. We've got 1/4 cup of sugar, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of vegetable shortening, but in my case I like to use good old-fashioned lard, 1/2 cup of butter, 1 egg, and 1/4 cup of water. So, first thing we're going to do is dump in our sugar and our salt into our flour, and we're going to whisk those together. Now, the next thing we got to do is dice up our butter and put that and our vegetable shortening into our mix. Now, the first thing you want to do is dump in your lard and begin working that in with your hands, just like this. Now, a lot of people want to use a food processor for this part, but I think working it with your hands is a better option, because if you ever have one of those pre-made pie crusts, they never taste quite as good as homemade, and the reason for that is because they're overworked. Everything is blended together so well that it all kind of runs together, and while good, it doesn't quite have the same taste as a handmade crust where there's little pockets of flavor from the butter and the lard still mixed in. Now we're going to start adding the butter here. Now you see I've diced this up into thirds long ways and then sliced it so that I get these nice little cubes. You're going to want your butter to obviously be chilled right out of the fridge when you first start cooking it, or cutting it, I mean. That way it's easier to slice and you're not making a big mess. But then have it be a little bit closer to room temperature, but still cold when you get to this phase. We're pretty much just working the flour and the butter together, so they pretty much squeeze it together, make like a snowball, but then it becomes really crumbly and falls apart. So that's what you're looking for. You want to get all the butter mixed in so that you don't have any loose flour, but you also want to break apart all these big crumbs. Alright, so now that we've got all of our stuff mixed together, we're going to take our egg that we've whisked into our 1/4 cup of cold water, and we're just going to dump that in. Now a lot of people like to use egg whites for this. I use the full egg. Really, the only difference is the color of the crust when you cook it gets a little darker when you use the full egg. So we're just going to work this in. Pie dough. Boom. So this is our 2 crusts. We're going to go ahead, we're going to take this out, bring it over here on our cutting board. Blow it out just a little bit. Boom. Go ahead and cut it right in half. We're going to wrap these up in cellophane, stick them in the fridge overnight, or for a few hours at least, let them chill. They'll last in there for a few days, so if you want to make a bunch of pies, make a bunch of crusts all at once, that's perfectly fine. Or you could put them in the cellophane, stick them in the freezer, and they'll last for months. So we will get these chilled and then check back in when we're ready to make our filling. Okay, so the next phase is to make the filling. And since I'm eating this one, we're going to make my favorite, which is a blueberry pie. We'll need 2 pints of blueberries. We're going to separate 1 cup out for that, which we'll see why in a minute. We need 3/4 of a cup of regular sugar, and then 3 to 4 tablespoons of either cornstarch, or what I prefer to use is tapioca starch or tapioca flour to help thicken it up. Seasonings wise, we're going to use some lemon zest. I don't have any zest, so we're just going to use a little bit of lemon juice, about 1 teaspoon of that, and then half a teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, and then we'll need about 3 tablespoons of water. So the first step is going to be to put our cup of separated out blueberries and our 3/4 of a cup of sugar into a medium saucepan. We're going to go ahead and turn that on and let that simmer on a low heat for about 5 minutes until it gets kind of, keeping it stirred in until it gets nice and consistent and all the sugar's melted. So as you can see, as the blueberries heat up, you don't need to add any water. The juice will start to come out. Now mix in with the sugar, and you get this nice thick syrupy. As it warms up, you get all that juice out. Now we're going to combine our tapioca flour, tapioca starch in a bowl with the water, with our 3 tablespoons of water. We're going to mix this in together. Now for those science nerds out there, cornstarch or stuff like this, thickening agent, can create what we call a non-Newtonian fluid, something where the viscosity of the liquid increases as its velocity increases. So when you quickly impact it, it actually feels thicker. And we're going to add our flour and starch mixture. We're going to let this boil, reduce a bit, thicken up. Okay, now that our sauce here is thickened up quite a bit, we're going to go ahead and fold that in the remaining blueberries. So I've already gone ahead and added about a teaspoon of lemon juice into the blueberries. I'm going to go ahead and add our seasonings now, which is the cinnamon and the nutmeg. And fold this in, scoop this out of the pan, and fold that in to the blueberries and mix those together. Now once we get this done, we'll go ahead, let that cool while we go ahead and prepare the crusts that have been in the fridge overnight. Alright, so we've got our pie dough out of the fridge, letting it warm up a little bit so we can work with it. We're going to have a floured surface, it's just a little bit, just to keep things from sticking. Work from the outside or the inside out. That way it gives it less chance to crack. Okay, now we're going to put in our blueberry mixture. Spread that out. Okay, so the last ingredient we're going to add to this is about 2 tablespoons of diced butter. It's cold, cut up into little pieces. We're just going to poke those in all around the top, and this will help add nice amount of flavor. Alright, set this aside. Go ahead and make our top crust. So you can decorate your crust any way you want. This is probably the simplest. Some people like to do a little pinched pattern. If you go to any kind of craft or baking store, you can usually get like crust little molds. Now on a fruit pie, because there is so much moisture, you definitely want to make sure that you vent the top a little bit in order to let that water get out while you're cooking. But since this is a special pie, we're going to do a little bit of a special decoration. I'm going to work on that, and then I'll get back and show you guys what it looks like before we stick it in the oven. Okay, so there we have it, nice decorated for a celebration of the event. Now a lot of people will put an egg wash on the top, and you can do that. All it's going to do is make the crust turn out a little brown. But for blueberry pies, I think I like the look on presentation of them. Be a little lighter, more springy. So we're just going to leave it as it is. It'll be all right. We'll put some shields around the edges so the crust doesn't get too crispy. All we're going to add now is a little bit of coarse grained sugar. Sprinkle that on the top a little, and it should be ready to stick in the oven. Okay, so we put our pie shield on. We're going to set the oven to 400 degrees, have it all preheated. Once we put the pie in though, we'll dip down. We just want to up a little higher before the pie goes in, because that's going to cool it down. So now that it's in there, we're going to drop it down to about 375. Let that cook nice and slow for about 40 minutes. Keep an eye on it, make sure it's not burning or nothing, but in about 40 minutes, it should be ready to pull out of the oven. Okay, so we got the pie out of the oven, cooled off, looks good, should be ready to go. So, like I said, we're going to have a lot of other people doing this challenge, Celebrate Pie Day. Links for all those videos are going to be down in the description. There's a lot of people, way more famous YouTube accounts than me. But we're going to go ahead and slice this now. start with it in the pan. I'm gonna see if I can pick it up with my hands. If it's nice and thick and can stick together, I think that'll be the quickest way to eat it. If not, I have a big spoon here. So let's cut this up and then we'll be ready to go. Got my timer, got my almond milk. All right, we're ready to go. First time I've ever tried eating fruit pie fast, so it might get pretty messy. All right, I'm gonna start here. 1, 2, 3. You guys saw the time, about 2 minutes, 40-some seconds. That was really good. Crust was nice and crisp. A little hard to eat fast. Those little decorative letters I put on there, definitely could tell every time I hit one of those. Not quite as soft as the original crust, but overall, very delicious pie. Not to my own horn here, but I did make it, so I thought it was good. Be sure to check out everyone else's video and enjoy your pie day.